In this lesson, I'm going to show you one of the most important and widely used components in all of Bootstrap, which is the navbar. So you can see actually on getbootstrap.com, they use a navbar component right here. We're also going to use one on our Yelp Camp application. And as I resize the navbar, notice how responsive it is. And then also notice, as soon as I hit tablet size and mobile size, we get this nice hamburger. So we'll be working towards all of that in this lesson. But we're going to start simpler. First thing we need to do is go to Components and go to Navbar. And before we go much further, I have created a new file just because we'll be writing quite a bit of code. The old one was getting cluttered. I'm calling it navbar.html. Inside, all I have is the link to Bootstrap. And I'll change the title here. I'll just call it Bootstrap Navbars, just like that. Now let's go to the docs and take a look at the default navbar. So this example here showcases all of the important features, where we can have a brand link, we can have other links, we can have drop-down menus, we can have a navbar form and a button, we can have things that are on the right side, things that are on the left side. This really showcases everything. It's the kitchen sink of Bootstrap navbars, and consequently the markup is a little bit long. We will be working with all of these pieces by the end of this video, but I want to start simpler. And I'll start by showing you the simplest way to make a navbar. So we need to make a nav element, and that nav element needs to have two classes. We want navbar, and we can start with dash default. We'll save, and now let's go look at the file in the browser and refresh. You can see, I hope it comes across in the screencast, there's a navbar, very faint bar going across the top. So that's that. That's how we actually initialize the navbar. Now let's fill it with some content. The first thing we'll take a look at is how we can add in this brand here, basically your company name in most cases. And that's using a navbar header, and then inside the navbar header, we use a navbar brand. So let's start by adding that div class equals navbar-header, and then inside of there we're going to add in navbar brand, which is an anchor tag. Usually when you click on that company name, it takes you back to the home page. So we'll do that here, anchor tag, and we'll start with the href equal to octothorpe so it doesn't take us anywhere. Class will equal navbar-brand, and we'll just make up a company name. Let's see, I've got a coffee cup around me, so let's go with coffee, but to actually make it a true startup, we need to change the spelling a little bit. Okay, that looks good enough for me. Coffee with a K. Let's go take a look, refresh, and we now have our navbar brand, which is a link. I click on it. It doesn't take me anywhere right now, but eventually in our applications, we'll have it so that when you click the company name, it takes you back to the home page. Next, let's see how we can add in some other links like contact, about, sign up, register, all those common links in the navbar. Let's start by adding an about page link right here. So we'll go back, and then outside of the navbar header, we're going to make another div, and this div will collect all of the content, at least on the left side of our navbar. So we have the header, and then we'll have some content, and then if we want something on the right side, we'll have another div that has another class. So the class here, it's actually two. We want nav and navbar-nav. Don't ask me about the naming there, navbar-nav. It's one of the big criticisms of Bootstrap is that it's a little bit ugly and it's not very meaningful sometimes. And there's actually a CSS framework that was created in response to the semantic meaninglessness of Bootstrap, if you will, called Semantic UI. And that's one that I really enjoy as well, and I debated teaching, but in the end, it's just not as widely used. There aren't as great tutorials yet. So back to our div here, class navbar, nav, and the class nav, both of those. And then for each item that we want on this navbar, we need to add an li, and then inside the li, if we want a link, we just add an anchor tag. So this one will just go nowhere once again, and this will be to the about page. And if I go back and refresh, we now have a link to about. Let's add one more to contact. Save, go back. Now we have two links. Now let's go ahead and add something to the right side of the page. Let's add two links. one for register or sign up, and another for login on the right side of the navbar. To do that, we need another container here. And actually, instead of using divs, it's more conventional to use an UL. It will work the exact same way, but you want to have LIs instead of a UL. Even though they'll work just fine with a div, it makes a little more sense to be inside of a UL. So we're going to add another UL, and this one is going to be nav, navbar dash nav, and then navbar dash right. And we need to make sure we spell that correctly, otherwise that class won't take effect. So what this will do is make us a new group of content for the right side of that navbar, and now we just need to fill it. So we'll add 2 links, both in LIs. The first one will go nowhere, and it will say sign up. And then we'll have another one that just says login. Let's take a look, refresh the page, and you can see we have content on the right. However, it's right up against the edge, and to fix that, we can add in a container to our navbar, just like we used a container earlier to add some spacing to our main content. We can add one inside of a navbar. So we'll put everything in the navbar inside of a container, so class equals container. Then I'll just move this down, make sure everything's indented properly. There we go. Let's test it out. Nice. So now everything is centered nice and correctly. I will show you, if I did add the container outside the nav, and I put the entire navbar inside, you'll see what happens now. If I refresh, our navbar is actually cut off and it only goes part of the way across the screen.